In today's episode, we're working on this, my mum's new Mazda 3. Now the reason I say new is because unfortunately this happened. Now, to the one person in the comments who inevitably is going to try and point out everything that my mum did wrong and try and defend the other driver, I will say this. There were eyewitnesses at the accident who all blame the other driver, the insurance company has seen it that way, and the other driver has even been prosecuted. Anyway, after dealing with the not so helpful people at the police impound when my mum's car got taken to, I managed to retrieve the dash cam, and it's been left to me to refit it to her new car. You really can't blame her for wanting a dash cam in your car, can you? Right, this is the dash cam kit that we will be fitting. Now normally when you buy a dash cam you get it in a nice box with a set of instructions that tells you what to do. I don't have this time because this has been previously fitted to a car. Fortunately I was the guy that fitted it to the car, so I do know how this goes together. What we've got is front facing camera on its mount, and that comes to the screen. We have rear facing camera which also acts as a backup camera. We've got power cable that goes to the front camera and powers the whole system, that goes into a cigarette lighter. Depending on how we run the cabling, I may cut this off and actually wire it directly into a switched 12 volt. Cable that runs from the rear camera to the front, and this little red wire that is actually part of this loom, this goes into your reverse light, so when you put the car into reverse, the rear camera switches to the backup one. Anyway, that's what we've got in the kit, so I've now got to install this, and I'm going to start by mounting the cameras in the car.
Mounting the front camera was relatively simple. After cleaning the windscreen where the camera was going to be mounted, it was then just a case of fitting it using the suction cup mount that was included in the kit.
Now the rear camera is a little bit more tricky because of the design of the back of the car. On the previous car that this was fitted to, it was quite easy just to screw it into the headlining there and it looked through the back windscreen. The third brake light was lower down, didn't obscure the view. This is a bit more tricky however, and a bit like the dash cam install I did for my dad's car, I think it's actually going to be better to mount this to the rear windscreen or at least something on it. I've already popped this panel off which covers the third brake light, so what I'm going to do is put a couple of small holes in, mount the camera there, and then we'll run the wiring through the boot and through its original rubber grommets over the headlining into the front camera.
Step 1 in mounting the rear camera was to carefully mark out the trim piece for where I needed to drill. While it's bad enough to make a mistake on your own car, it's even worse when it's someone else's, so I was being even more careful than usual. With the position of the holes marked, I had to bite the bullet and actually drill the panel. With the holes drilled, I could then bolt the camera bracket to the trim piece. I will note that the dash cam did originally come with some black self-tapping screws, but between me removing the camera from my mum's previous car and her buying the Mazda, they had unfortunately been misplaced. I therefore had to use some stainless steel M4 button head screws that I had instead.
Right, I've got plastic trim removal tools and plastic rods, so I've got to fish this cable through the boot and up and over the headliner. I think it's going to be one of those jobs that massively frustrates me, so I think this is once again a case of cue the time lapse.
it's all too late. Maybe I'm just done fighting. Maybe, oh, maybe I'm indecisive. Maybe it's all too late. Maybe I'm just done fighting. It's all too late. It's all too late. All too late.
With the cable passed through the grommet connecting the boot lid to the rest of the car, I could plug it into the camera and then refit the trim panel with the camera attached.
It's all too late.
Right, with the wiring now run through the boot, we'll carry on up and over the headlining and try and get this one towards the front of the car. Reverse light wire, I think I'm going to have to extend that. I'll worry about that one later. Right, so I've got the cable through the boot and to this point. I've got to go over the B pillar and then down the A pillar. I've already popped off the A pillar trim and then across the top of the headlining and connect it into the camera. Any spare cabling I've got, I will basically coil up and probably hide in the A panel. I know on my previous car, this cable, there was a huge amount of excess because it was quite a small little hatchback. This is much bigger though, so I'm not sure if there will be. The cable for the reverse light, I'm probably going to need to extend that, but I have just managed to get it into the rear pocket near the wiring loom. I'm just going to have to figure out which one the reverse light is. Unfortunately, I don't have a manual for this car with a wiring diagram. Anyway, that's enough about rambling about cables. Let's get this black cable to the front camera.
While it still wasn't easy, I have to say running the cables over the headlining of the Mazda was much easier than my mum's previous car. There seemed to be a lot more space, which I can only guess is because the Mazda is a physically bigger car.
Whoops. Don't worry, it's just a seatbelt. Mum, if you're watching this, don't worry, it was your seatbelt.
But believe me, I tried. I don't know why I couldn't make this work. But believe me, I tried. Now it's all too late. Now it's all too late.
Now I realise this is going to be really difficult to see and the camera's not really being able to pick it up because of like the change in light. But I can feel it like along here between the headliner and the glass. There's actually a little bit of a gap, and it seems to be that the wire pokes into it quite nicely. I was really expecting to have to take out sun visors, interior lights and things and pull the front of it down. I mean, that's what I had to do on my dad's car, and even actually the previous car that this was fitted to.
All too late. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm falling down. Maybe it's me in my head and I can't get out. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm falling down.
Right, the last thing we need to do is run this cable round the glove box somehow and to the cigarette lighter. Now, again, unlike the last one I did, on my dad's car, the fuse panel was under here. So we actually cut this and wired it straight into the fuse panel, so it was much neater to install. The fuse panel on this is on the opposite side of the car. The other thing is that there are no USB sockets on this car, and this adapter actually comes with a USB one, so it's kind of useful to have. If Mum doesn't like it, we can always look at a different way of powering it, but for now, I'm going to pull a few more trim pieces out and figure out how to get this to go behind the glove box. This whole car is just clipped together. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. light's not great, but that's it. And the only evidence of the dashcam install, apart from the cameras, is that cable running up and over the centre console. Well, unfortunately the light went and the rain came in last night, so it kind of halted play. It's a bit of a shame because there's only one last job I've got to do, which is connect this little red wire into the reverse light. I did, however, make a bit of a mistake. As you can see, the reverse light is in the boot lid, and I ran the cabling around the outside to the light there because I never bothered to check. Oh well, it shouldn't really be too bad though. I've just got to pull that cable very carefully back through and then run it around the inside of the boot lid panels. It is also going to make my life a bit easier because now I know exactly where the wiring is for the reverse light, because that is all that light is. By the way, if a cable ever starts to get tight, don't ever just yank on them. I've seen people do that and basically break connectors off the end of things and short stuff out.
With the red wire now routed correctly to the reverse light, I could then start to peel back the tape that covered the reverse light's wiring.
It's always the wrong end of a wiring loom that they start putting the tape on from the one that you need to access. Right, one of these is ground. I'm guessing from Japanese automotive wiring that it's the black with little white, and the other one is the power. However, I'm going to confirm that by going and getting a multimeter.
After going and getting my multimeter, I tested the wiring, and it was a good job that I did that.
Scrap what I said. The black with white tracer is 12 volt on this. Fair enough.
With the 12 volt feed to the reverse light now known, I could splice into it, connect the red wire from the dash cam into it. With the connection made and with the use of a lighter, I put some heat shrink over the connection to make sure there would be no shorts. If that had all gone wrong, I imagine it would have been a very interesting conversation with the insurance company trying to explain that a dash cam caused the incident rather than it being able to prove who was to blame. Fortunately, I didn't set my mum's car on fire.
Right, the low sun is making this really difficult to record because I've got to have the boot open to access the wiring. But basically what I've done is I cut this wire. I then used a crimp connector and crimped it back together, but it also included the red one. I've tested that it works. The dash cam on the front comes up with a backup. The lights on the little camera there come on. I'll show you that all better in a minute. But yeah, I've put a piece of heat shrink, so I've just got to put this sheathing back over, retape it, and then the panel can go back in. So everything's wired in and fitted. So moment of truth. Camera comes on. And as my neighbours opposite. Rear camera is in the top right hand corner there, and if we stick it into reverse, hey, backup camera. That's it for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, then please hit that like button and share. If you want to get notifications of when I release future videos, then please hit the subscribe button. That should be somewhere down there. If you want to see some more how to build videos and similar tutorials like this one, then please hit the link that should be here. And finally, if you want to see some other stuff that I'm doing on the channel, then there should be a link somewhere here. Once again, thanks for watching.